We are back, full fucking throttle. We got a boomachino here. We're doing a post UFC Philly breakdown, a boom breakdown that is, might I add. Sick fights, man. Main event, Gaethje versus Barboza. I can't say that I picked that to happen. My pick was Barboza. I thought that his athleticism, I thought that his Muay Thai and his range was going to do the job. Crazy. Gaethje really fought a good fight. He's a guy that has, collegiate wrestling. I think Division I NCAA champ pretty much, and we never see him use it because the guy just wants to fucking fight. He's a raw fighter. He has no emotions going in there. It's crazy when you hear him talk. It seems like he's just a cold-blooded killer. He's like, I wish I could have been nervous or had some kind of feeling going into this fight, but I just come in here straight cold. That's what he says. But he fights like that too, just in your face, trying to take your head off, aggression to the max. And he put the pressure on Barboza. I think he gained the respect with the leg kicks early. He threw a couple calf kicks, which landed nice. Barboza landed some kicks of his own, but then Gaethje was kind of in his face. Once he hurt him, I think he poked him in the eye on accident, and Barboza was throwing off. And one thing that I did say that I really seen in prior fights is Barboza does have a potential to break mentally in fights, where if he's having trouble or he's not doing really well right off the get-go, he can start to fade if you fight him the right way. Now Gaethje, on the other hand, he does not break, and he never will break, and he's a guy that you have to put out cold to ever win the fight or to slow him down in any kind of way. And in this fight, I believe Barboza started to slow down a little bit after that eye poke, and after that shot that he got caught in that eye was started to swell up. I think we saw a different energy level in Barboza, where he started to back up a little bit, and Gaethje took full advantage of that, put the pressure on him, which was key, and started landing some shots in the clinch and put him away with that leaping right hook. And it was beautiful, man. Pinpoint accuracy on the hook. Great way to put away Barboza and not have to deal with anything, man. Who would have thought Gaethje would come out of that fight uninjured and not taking much damage at all? And that was the case. And that was great for him. And we'll touch up on some more fights. I got a couple of topics I wanted to hit. Then we'll get to some fan questions as well. And try to cover most of the card. One of the highlights of the card, my boy Des Green finished Ross Pearson. I was surprised seeing how early he finished him too. Also, say hello to the fucking boomachino right here. But yeah, Des Green, that's how you go in there and put that killer instinct on somebody. He looked really good on the feet, calm, composed. He's always really been good at using his reach, sticking those jabs. He has fast hands, but never really a guy that puts guys away on the feet or even gets finishes. He's been on the end of some bad decisions by judges, I feel, and he's always there putting up, performing. His wrestling's at a high level, and I felt his grip strength before. He's got some unreal grip strength once he gets wrist control on you. And it was important that he stayed on Ross Pearson. Sometimes guys, they hurt guys or they take guys down and they kind of take their time and they look for positions. That wasn't the case with this fight. Des Green was throwing punches at Ross Pearson while he controlled him against the cage, and he just never let him breathe. It looked like Ross Pearson was like he was hurt, then he was woken up, then he was hurt again, and at that point the ref stepped in. It looked like he was going to go unconscious if he didn't. So great killer instinct by Des Green. Really cool to see him get a finish. And I'd like to see him get his wish and get on that Rochester card. That's where he's from. So I think he would sell out the place, get a lot of people there. So that would be smart for the UFC to build off the momentum and put him on that Rochester card. That's not too far away too. I mean, couldn't have asked for a more perfect fight to get rebounded back with less, about a month to go. So May 18th, I believe. So a little over a month. Didn't take any damage in the fight. Finished it within the first round. Perfect scenario for Des Green. Let's talk a little bit about the Ray Borg, Casey Kenny decision. I personally thought Borg won the fight. I don't think it was it wasn't a robbery of any sorts. Gaethje Kenny did really well in the early goings with his inside leg kicks and his striking, and Ray Borg was doing amazing with his scrambling and getting his hands locked behind Kenny against the cage to land those pick-up doubles where he slams him. It just seemed like they negated each other really well. No one really got the edge for quite some time. It was like Borg would land a takedown, a slam, and then Gaethje Kenny would reverse it and get back to his feet. Gaethje Kenny would be, pressuring Borg against the cage. He would be in the advantageous position with Borg's back against the cage, and then Borg would reverse it and land a takedown. And the fight kind of played out like that. I just thought that Borg landed more takedowns, kind of won the scrambling exchanges, and I would have gave Gaethje Kenny the first round and Borg the second and third round. That's how I scored it. But one of the judges had it 30-27 for Gaethje Kenny, and I thought that was a little bit suspect right there. Smoking some good fucking Sugar Show OG or some shit. But fuck that guy, right? We don't care about that guy. But yeah, I gave Borg the decision, and sucks, with all the stuff he's going through with his kid, and needing the money pretty much, gets robbed. Not robbed for terrible calls, but robbed as far as I thought he won the fight. I was really impressed with Rodriguez. That she fought what was it? She fought Aguilar. Man, Aguilar's nose was busted up. I think her nose was like running up to her forehead. It was like busted up here, and it was swelling like all in the middle part right here. But that girl is tough, man. She was taking non-stop shots. I was just so impressed with Rodriguez's volume. Her ability to use that range with the teebs and the jab was really fast. Her volume just never stopped from round one to the end of the fight. She just kept going with punches and bunches. Clinch game was on point. She would clinch up. She would go elbow, knee, mixing it up from up and down. Just hard to deal with someone like that, man. Someone who just keeps coming, And when you fight someone who's so durable like Aguilar, sometimes that gets in your head. Even though you're winning the fight, you're like, man, what do I got to do to put this person away? And sometimes that could actually break you, because you're like, this person won't go away. I threw the kitchen sink at them, and they're still here looking at me, standing in my face. What the fuck should I do now? But Rodriguez never took her foot off the pedal. She stayed diligent. She stayed persistent. And she was touching Aguilar up, really busted her up bad. And I think that girl's going to be making her way up the ranks and potentially be a title holder in the future. She was constantly leading with her punches, getting off first on Aguilar, and she was using her length really well. We see a lot of tall people that don't know how to use their reach. A lot of people criticize Stefan Struve for that. Someone who's so tall, who has such great length, but doesn't necessarily know how to use it. You really have to know how to use your length. Snappy jabs, teep kicks, front snap kicks. Set up your leg kicks from a distance where someone can't quite reach you with their boxing, stuff like that. She did a great job at that. Boomachino, baby. Champ. Gotta give a shout out to Shannon Briggs with the champ. Always, baby. Let's go, champ. Another fighter, Sadiq Youssef, very impressive. I don't think I've ever seen a fighter so cool, calm, and composed in there. Barely breathes, barely opens his mouth. He keeps a straight face the whole way through. And he had a very high-level Muay Thai, high-level Muay Thai skilled opponent in what's the guy's name? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. The guy that he fought, Shaman Marias, yeah, really crisp Muay Thai. The guy's really good at throwing body disguisal punches to land that head kick right behind the punch. There was a couple times that Shaman Marias almost landed that. Sadiq had his hand up and he kind of blocked it, but it was really well disguised, and it was a really technical fight, a slow-paced fight, not crazy exchanges, nothing wild like that. But Sadiq Youssef showed great composure. He landed a lot of good calf kicks as well. Good, no takedown defense really needed in that kind of fight where both guys kind of had an agreement like we're going to strike and that's it. And, just really impressed with the way he's able to keep his mind composed and sharp in there, not really overreact or get phased by anything really. He just stays the course, knows how to break guys down and win fights by points if he has to throughout the 3 rounds. So shout outs to Youssef, man. That was a good performance. I thought he had really good clinch control as well. Stays really calm in the clinch, lands his knees, keeps position really well. He was really good at getting those double unders where he had Sheymon Moraes kind of stuck against the cage, kind of delaying time, but hey, you're winning points there. It's not easy to keep a guy there, so that was really good too. And I think he won the fight based off his forward pressure. It wasn't like he landed anything much more significant than Moraes, but he was able to keep the forward pressure. He was stalking him down. He was cutting off the cage, and he was getting those double unders on the clinch and keeping good position against Moraes. Or Moraes, as John Anik would say. He also had that late knockdown where he landed that solid shot, and I think that won him the fight, really. Definitely secured in the 3rd round, so that was big. Let's talk about Michelle Waterson. She was really pinpointing accuracy with her strikes against Kowalkiewicz. I was shocked to see the lack of volume by Kowalkiewicz. Usually she's a lot more aggressive, and I know before the fight she said something like, I really like what Michelle Waterson. I don't want to hurt her, but I have to fight her. And I think that really showed in the fight. It was kind of weird how she lacked aggression. She didn't really try to go for the finish. She didn't really get in her face and throw a lot of volume like she usually does with strikes. I knew that Karate Hottie was going to be a threat with the takedowns. We see her get that headlock throw a lot in other fights, and she secures position really well on the ground. She passes to side control, and she'll keep a really good base and side control where you can't even move or you can't scramble to get up. She does that really well, and she did that against Carolina. She was kind of stuck on her back for a while, losing points, time's ticking, and you can't let that happen, man. You got to be urgent to get back up to your feet, because the more time you're down there, the more probabilities that round goes to the person on top, even if they're not landing some ground and pound or doing much. They're in an advantageous position, so you got to be urgent to get up there. We need some more fucking light. It's getting dark. There we go. Now we're shining. So yeah, I thought that Michelle Waterson did really well with her ability to be first, to land a volume of strikes, and really to not let Carolina set her feet and land any of her strikes herself. She just has a strength advantage, which is interesting because Michelle Waterson's coming up from a weight class, and she seems to have more strength when it comes to the grappling exchanges with a lot of these girls. Maybe it's a technique thing, but I don't know. She seems to throw girls and outposition them on the ground, and I think that's something she should continue to go to in these fights. She looks really good in side control, and she's able to just really control girls from that position. Let's talk about Keith Peterson as a ref. I think he's a really underrated ref. Really great at his stoppages. Gaethje clipped Barboza with that punch, and Keith Peterson was in there before he could take any extra damage. And I think that's important, man. When guys are unconscious and, they're about to take an extra shot, it's a hard split-second decision for the ref to jump in there before it happens. You don't want to take an opportunity for a guy to recover away, but you also don't want to have him take an extra shot or two after he's already unconscious. And I think Keith Peterson does an excellent job at that. He also does a great job at noticing things in the fight. Guys are grabbing the cage, guys are grabbing shorts, there's an eye poke. He's really aware in there at calling things as they happen, and I think he deserves more credit for that. Shout out to Keith Peterson. Great referee. Um, let's talk about Gaethje versus Barboza. In this fight, what I thought was pressure was a key for Gaethje to win the fight. You have to get in Barboza's face. You cannot let that guy set up. You cannot let him start landing leg kicks. Get comfortable in the fight and get a rhythm going, because that's when he becomes the most dangerous. That's when he starts throwing his spin shit, and you next thing you know, you got a wheel kick upside your head before anything ever happens. So Gaethje did a great job at leading with some calf kicks, kind of getting the respect of Barboza, and then hurting him early. It's key. You got to hurt this guy. You got to get in his head. You got to make him second guess himself, because once he gets in a rhythm, it's downhill for you from there. And I think Gaethje did a great job at getting in his head early on, hurting him early. He had his eye busted up, and then he was in his face, creating forward pressure and getting into a closer range where it's more of a boxing range. And Barboza does way better at a kickboxing range where he could throw kicks. And Gaethje shut that down, man, and before Barboza could ever get set, he landed that big right hook, put him out unconscious. So props to Gaethje. That was a great game plan. Whether he was following a game plan or not, he fought the perfect fight against Barboza, and can't ask for more than that. I always love seeing his coach's reaction when he wins, just stoic, just looking out like, yep, we did it. Trevor Whitman's like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I always love seeing that. I think he's just such a great guy, and he's just worried about the opponent. Cheers, baby. All right, let's get to some fan questions. We're going off on Twitter here. We got optimal MMA picks. When did you start training BJJ, and what's the best advice you'd give to a beginner? For me, I started training jiu-jitsu at age 19, which is late nowadays. Nowadays, kids are starting at like 5 years old, 6 years old, and they're going to be fucking terrors by the time they're 19, killing people. Probably in the UFC already. I started at 19. My advice would be to just stay patient, to really try to pay attention, and to find what you're good at, and, really attack those things, really go for things, take risks, be willing to get tapped by taking risks and finding out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and growing from there. I think it's important that you put yourself in bad positions. And I think for beginners, one of the biggest things is they tend to get a little bit too excited and overuse their energy. And I think energy expenditure is an important thing to become a master at, is how to stay calm in the intensity, learning how to focus on your breathing, which I can't do because I got a fucking deviated septum, so I'm a mouth breather. But learning how to be calm in a position that's uncomfortable is a key thing in jiu-jitsu. And I think that, you have to kind of get used to that, put yourself in those positions and remain calm and figure out a way to get out of there. Don't over squeeze, don't overreact and just, get all jittery in there, because that doesn't help you when you're trying to stay calm and keep your cardio going and keep your breathing under wraps. So I think that's a good thing to focus on early on. We got Round 5 MMA on Twitter. Which of the KOs did you like? And did you like, as fans' perspective, on how Craig's game plan was? It made it for a very slow fight. Well, first off, Craig is really good at finishing guys late. He's good at being down and coming back in fights. You can never count that guy out. He's really good at landing those submissions late in fights when he's on his back and he's down on the cards. But he's smart, man. He lures you into a game where you think you're safe, and then boom, he's got a triangle latched onto you. So I thought that's really impressive, and I think that's something that his opponents are gonna have to keep in mind. Like, hey, I might be beating this guy, I might be on top, but you got to watch out for threats at all times. Whether it's the first round or the third round, he's going to be looking to finish you. So that's really cool. But I was most impressed with Josh Emmett to be able to come back from that orbital issue. His eye was all messed up for months and months from that Jeremy Stevens fight. You know, his brain was rattled, he was concussed, and he had lingering symptoms for a long time, and he had to deal with that. And now, not only to deal with that physically, but to deal with that mentally, coming back into a fight against a guy like Johnson, who has crisp striking, very hard to take down, very fast for the weight class. And Emmett was having some troubles early on in the fight. The first 2 rounds I gave to Johnson. Emmett stayed composed though. He was using his movement and his in and out level changes really well, and he landed that big right in the 3rd round, and that he needed that to win the fight. So props to him, man, for coming back from something like that and being able to keep his head in the game and land that big knockout and make a big comeback, make a big splash in the division. So props to him. I was impressed. And Sir Smokes a lot on Twitter at Big Boss 06714. Boom, boom, boom. A lot of numbers. I don't know how Josh Emmett didn't get a bonus for that. Who got bonuses? I didn't check yet, but I know Gaethje probably got a bonus. I would have thought Josh Emmett would have got performance of the night bonus, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how that guy doesn't get a bonus for that. That's fucking crazy. At Irish MMA 84, what's next for Gaethje? I don't know, man. The weight class is picking up with Conor quote-unquote retiring, Khabib serving his suspension. We got Holloway versus Poirier for the interim title. Most likely the winner of that's going to fight Khabib when he comes back. I'd like to see maybe Gaethje fight Pettis. I think that's what they were talking about. That would be cool. Pettis coming off a big knockout. Gaethje coming off a big knockout. 2 really exciting fighters who are willing to strike and leave it all out there for the fans. That's a fan favorite fight right there. I don't know if Pettis wants to come back down to 55 or not after that great performance at 70. I think he says he's willing to bounce back and forth. So let's see Pettis versus Gaethje. I'm down for that, man. That'd be crazy. Anything else we wanted to touch on? Anything else? That's about it, man. I think that's it for the card. Let's go down and see what else we didn't touch up on. Yeah, you know, David Branch got submitted by Jack Hermanson. That was that arm in guillotine setup. I really like that. It's almost like you're taking the back, but then you wrap around and you trap both the head and the arm. It's an arm in guillotine, and instead of coming around the back, you sit down on your ass and you throw that leg over the back and you have that arm in guillotine. And David Branch is no joke on the ground. He's a Renzo Gracie black belt, and Hermanson finished him in the 1st round. I thought that Branch could have reacted a little bit to that. It seemed like he kind of just got stuck, and then that was it, you know, and he gave in to the tap. But I would have liked to see him try to maybe throw that leg off his back and try to scramble out and turn in a little bit, you know, show some urgency to try to get out of it. But it seemed like he was just caught and didn't know where to go from there, and he got the tap. You know, 1st round, guy has a good squeeze. There's no sweat, and props to David, to Hermanson for landing that choke. I really like seeing that transition from the back to the arm in guillotine there. Chris Wade hits that a lot in the gym. He's really good at that. And that was a slick submission right there. But that's that for the UFC Philly Boom Breakdown. We're going to be back for the next card, which I think is April 13th. Holloway versus Poirier. That's a huge fight that I'm really excited to see. A rematch. Holloway lost to Poirier by mounted triangle armbar way back when I think it was his first fight in the UFC. He's come leaps and bounds. So has Poirier. They both improved significantly. I just cannot see Max Holloway losing right now with the way he's looked against Ortega and Aldo twice. So I'm going with him in that fight, but we'll talk about that later. Before that, and if you guys could give me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. If you could subscribe to my channel. Also, give me a follow on Instagram at BrianBoom135. We'll see you next time, baby. Boom!